Well, anyway, it's great to see you all this morning, and I imagine since you all are here to find out how we can do more with less, that some of you are facing similar challenges as we have and are at Kennesaw State University. So I assume, but I could be wrong, that the majority of the people in the room don't have a huge budget for transfer programs. If you do, then we're all going to flock to you to find out how you made it work, but I'm excited to have an opportunity to share with you all a little bit about what we're doing at KSU, but also to learn from you all about the ways that you're making your few dollars stretch and help to improve transfer student transition and success. My name is Stephanie Foote. I'm a professor at Kennesaw State University in the Department of First Year and Transition Studies, and I'm joined today by some of my awesome colleagues. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Natasha Talreja. I am the Assistant Director over Transfer, Admission, and Adult Student Services. And I lead a transfer team, which is just myself and my senior counselor. But yeah, we love it. I've been at KSU for about 3 years. I'm excited to share some of the things that's going on our side.
My name is Lundy. I am a graduation coach with a grant-funded program that we have on campus called the Transfer Advocate Gateway Program, where our goal at the end of it is to create a fully operational Transfer Student Services Center. I've been at Kennesaw State for going on 2 years now. This is very near and dear to me because I am a transfer student from a 2-year to a 4-year, and I actually went back to that 2-year school to work there to help students either complete that associate's degree or transfer to a 4-year institution, one of those being one of our partners in this grant. So very near and dear to me, and I'm very much excited to be here.
Hey, well, good morning. My name is Jean So, and I am the Director for Transition Programs at Kennesaw State. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about our areas later on and throughout the presentation. But Transition Programs is a part of a larger office called Orientation and Transition Programs. And so the focus of my area is obviously working with transfer students, whether it's within a programmatic or an academic capacity. But then I also am in charge of extended orientation. So how many extended orientation folks are in the room? Anyone? No? It first started out, right? I'm not a NOTA, I have to remember. But yeah, but extended orientation for first year students, but we're really excited because this year we, after 4 years of doing extended orientation for first years, we are venturing into extended orientation camps for transfer students this year. So we're really excited about that. So thank you so much for being here.
All right, so here are some outcomes for the session, and we are going to be sharing obviously what we're doing and how we're doing it and why. But we also want to engage you all in interaction, so talking with each other, talking with us, sharing good ideas, resources, and services, things that we're doing, again, to support the transition and success of our transfer students. And I do want to begin by saying we were really called to doing this session because we were in a situation at KSU where we had a large number of transfer students, and I'll share with you in just a moment those numbers, but we really didn't have anything dedicated to help our transfer students in that transition and success journey. So Jean and I were sitting at a conference together, and we were feeling very frustrated because we've been trying to put together this campus-wide committee that would focus on transfer students and transfer student success, and we were hitting a lot of roadblocks because KSU is an institution that we love, but it's a shared governance institution. So to start a committee that's across the entire university takes a lot of work. And so we decided that we would work within our sphere of influence, and that's really what we're going to share with you all today. The things that we've done from a curricular standpoint and also from the co-curricular standpoint, and the ways in which we've been able to take some of our existing programs and services and reorient them to meet the needs of our transfer student population. So the message in this is, if you're sitting in, like I've been sitting in these awesome sessions for the last couple of days, you feel very inspired by the work that our colleagues are doing across the country, but you're thinking, I'm not really sure how I can do this because I don't have a big budget or I don't have the kind of support that I need, either at the administrative level or the departmental level. The moral of the story is you can do it, but you have to think about how you can start and start within that sphere of influence. So that's really what motivated Jean and I, and then Chris and Natasha and some of our other colleagues to become involved and engaged. So we're going to talk a little bit about who we are first as an institution. Before I put up this slide, had anyone ever heard of Kennesaw State University? Oh, a lot of hands. Excellent. Maybe because we're in the metro Atlanta area and we are just about 25 miles from here. Kennesaw is one of those best kept secrets, I like to refer to it, because we are a large institution, a state institution. We're a comprehensive institution, so we really serve the students of the state of Georgia. And historically, we've had a large population of transfer students as well as adult learners. We've seen some transition in terms of our numbers of transfer students in the last couple of years, and I think that that's mostly attributable to the fact that we went through this consolidation. Some of you from the state of Georgia may have heard about these consolidations that have happened at our various institutions. But we consolidated with Southern Polytechnic State University a couple of years ago, and they became part of Kennesaw State University, and suddenly we had some new programs, engineering, computer science, and other programs that are very desirable for students who are coming to as traditional students. And then also, we implemented football. So if you've ever gone through that process, and now I've been at 3 institutions where we've implemented football, so I feel uniquely qualified to talk about this, this process, besides the fact that I actually do like college football a lot. But when you implement something like football, that can change the landscape or the composition of your student population. We saw a lot more first-year students who were coming to us, seeking us out, and so that really changed our percentages of our transfer students versus first-year students. And I say all of this because a couple of years ago, if you were sitting in a presentation that I may have said, or that Jean and I may have said we were about 50% transfer students. Well, that's changed. You can see we have quite a different number up here, but we still serve a lot of transfer students. And what's unique too about KSU is that we have a lot of transfer students not just coming from 2-year institutions, but also coming from 4-year institutions. And for many of those students, they're coming home to Kennesaw because we have a large commuter student population. So many of them have chosen to go to Georgia State or UGA or Georgia Southern. We see a lot of people going South Georgia and coming back to us. So it's a really interesting and unique transfer student population that we serve, and I would assume that those of you at 4-year institutions probably see similar kinds of transfer transitions too. So I'm going to let my colleagues talk briefly about each of their areas so you can see this provides some context for the programs and services that we're going to describe. So we'll go ahead and start with Jean and Orientation Transition Programs.
So as I just briefly mentioned, I'm from the Office of Orientation and Transition Programs. My position was actually birthed from a transfer self-study of Kennesaw State University. And so we were fortunate enough to go through an extensive self-study where there were faculty and staff that came together, assessed the campus, and they thought, hey, let's do one of a couple of things. Number one, why don't we start a transfer center? Great idea. Who's got the money? Another idea was to revamp the Office of Orientation, and that was it. The office was just orientation. It actually started with 2 licensed counselors who did the orientation program when KSU was small, turned into the Office of Orientation, and then because of the self-study, they knew the need not only to work with transfer students, but also within transition programming post-orientation, hence the name changed to Orientation and Transition Programs. And so my position was the first of its kind, still brand new, and I was able to come in and start an area from the ground up, and so that's been really exciting. So currently right now, our office not only handles new student orientation, but like I said, we also handle extended orientation, which is kind of everything post-orientation through the first year and beyond, as well as working with my amazing colleagues on the academic front as well as the programmatic front. The unique thing also about orientation and transition programs is that before we consolidated, we were part of student affairs. Now we are now under academic affairs under University College, and so we're kind of one of those, you know, we're the fun, vibrant area that walks into every college meeting because we're student affairs at heart. But we've actually had to switch caps a little bit to make sure that, you know, being in an academic college does have a little bit of a different way of doing things. And so how do we bring that into the fold now that we are more of an academic unit with a student affairs heart? So lots of great changes that have come from that.
And my department is First Year in Transition Studies, and I'm also fun, I promise. I'm in University College too. Jean and I are fun together. We have a good time. So I'm in University College as well, first year in transition studies, and our department is interesting and unique in that, we teach first year seminars and learning communities, but we also have a transfer student seminar, which some of you may have heard me describe in one of the other sessions. We have a sophomore seminar, we have a senior capstone experience. We also have a master's program that I direct in first year studies. So we have an eclectic collection of things that fall within our department. But we are comprised of full-time faculty, for the most part, dedicated to teaching these courses and teaching in these programs, although there aren't enough of us to go around, so we have to rely on a lot of awesome staff people from across the university and then some alums who come and teach for us as adjuncts and part-timers. In addition to that, within University College, we have other degree granting programs. So it is kind of an interesting and unique blend. But around the time that Jean's office expanded their name and mission, my department expanded too. We were first year programs, and we changed our name to first year in transition studies. And that was inspired by some research that I had the privilege of working on that coincided with the self-study that we were doing for transfer students and on the transfer student experience at KSU. And so everything aligned together, and our former dean said, what do you think as a department of expanding your name and thinking about what you can do to help students beyond that initial college transition? And of course I was excited about that because I'm a former transfer student myself, and I have a soft spot in my heart. So I was involved in the research and thinking about what we could do from a practice perspective to help our students. And that's when some of the courses and programs that we'll refer to in just a few moments were born.
And there's not much magical I can say about transfer admission except for I am from the admission side.
That is magical.
But when I came about 3 years ago to KSU, I came with only freshman experience really, and they decided to implement the assistant director focus for transfer, which I was really, really excited about because it's a little scary. You have kind of a new position, so you can either do everything with it or it can be very, very scary. And there can be a lot of pressure to do something successfully. But I've had nothing but success since I've come to KSU. Like I said before, it's just myself and my colleague Nicole, and we solely work on just getting transfer students to KSU. We do limited travel. As Stephanie was saying, there's been consolidation all over the state of Georgia, which has eliminated a lot of our transfer possibilities, so we are having to be very creative about how we get those students to come to KSU. I report directly to my director of admission, which is really nice, but the Office of Admissions overall has about 7 people, so it's still fairly small with so many students that we're trying to recruit.
So our students have been through the admissions process, they've been through the orientation process, they've got their classes with their academic advisors, and now they're starting to meet their faculty. But what's next? A lot of the times our students still fall through the cracks because nobody is really right there with them through that academic journey. Talking to academic advisors, and me being an academic advisor, I can say this. A lot of times when they go and meet with their advisors, kind of just a prescription, if you will. Your doctor will tell you, take 2 and call me in the morning. A lot of times when you meet with your advisors, take these 5 classes, see me next semester. But what is the process? What is that journey? And that is where we come in as a TAG program, where we talk about that journey. We're a little bit more intrusive. How are these classes going? Don't just tell me that they're going good. That's not an answer. If you've had that test, I want to know how well you've done on that test. I want to know if it's a 76, if it's a 78, can we work from that, can we build from that? And any other questions that you feel like you may have that'll help you fall, that you feel like you fall through the cracks, well, let me help you, let me pick you back up. Let me tell you what financial aid is, let me tell you where career services is, any other life-changing, life-altering problems that you feel like will hinder you from completing this degree, let me help you. And then beyond that is where our department also comes in. We do a lot of different workshops. And I know we talk about things like time management, financial skills, study skills, things like that. But how do they work at Kennesaw State versus the previous institution that you've attended? Those are some of the things that we talk about within our TAG program. And again, beyond that, let's talk about employment. Let's talk about internships. Let's talk about graduate school. Those are some of the things that we want to help with beyond just being in the classroom. Again, we want to be a part of that academic journey. So those are some of the things that we talk about with our TAG program.
The TAG program is grant funded. Some of you may be familiar with the First in the World grants that came out from the Department of Education a couple of years ago. We were fortunate enough to get one of those grants. And so we created, I'm a co-PI on it.
Yes, she's the reason I'm employed.
I take very little credit. Chris is awesome, so he would be employed regardless. But the Transfer Advocate Gateway Program, and some of you all may have been in sessions where we've talked about this before too, here at NISTS, but basically it serves underserved students who are coming from the two-year environment. So we have some institutions that we've identified as being our top feeder two-year institutions. And Chris is one of our graduation coaches, and we have some others. We also have admissions enrollment service specialists who are there at the two-year institutions to help with that transfer transition. So this is a program that's fantastic, but it doesn't even begin to serve the number of students that we have transferring to KSU. So it's something that we haven't yet been able to scale, but it definitely is something that we would like to if we're able to get some additional external funding and support. So the idea of doing more with less, I mentioned at the beginning that we thought about, Jean and I were inspired by sitting in these NISTS sessions and hearing about all the great work that everyone's doing. But thinking back, we don't have any budget, we don't have, the people power, and we had a lot of transfer students. So we thought about our sphere of influence, and this is where you all may begin to see yourselves as well. We knew that there were things that we could do because we had Natasha, and some things that were happening on the transfer admission side that we could capitalize on. So we'll talk about those in just a moment. We also began to think about the curricular programs and opportunities that we could develop, and I'll describe those in a few moments. And then we thought about, and this is where we'll spend a lot of our time, because this is where a lot of our influence lies, in revising co-curricular programs and services. And this is where we knew that we could have a significant impact because that was completely within Jean's control. And there were other ways that we could, because of Campus Partners, really reorient a lot of what we were doing from the co-curricular side, and we knew that that could help foster the sense of belonging that our transfer students needed and were lacking. And then Jean will talk about how we put together an action team. So I mentioned the difficulties getting the committee, committee that would span across the institution. So instead, we decided to take the path of least resistance, and we created an action team, and we belong to that action team, and we'll talk more about the membership and what it is that we've been able to do together in just a few moments. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Natasha so she can talk about the changes in transfer admissions.
So when I first came to KSU, I met with Sam, my director, and he was like, well, we need something to happen. I need it to happen fast. We need to start making files complete, and we need to just get these kids enrolled, and we need to get them into orientation, and overall just get them into a happier place. So one of the first things that I talked about, well, do we have any space where I can meet with transfer students that will allow for that one-on-one, more special kind of area to meet with my students? And he said, nope, but we're going to work on it. Well, 2.5 years later, we finally have some dedicated space. So I would definitely say patience, please try to use it. It will eventually happen. So now we are going to be over in the Transfer and Adult Admission Services department, which is literally right across the street from the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. And it doesn't sound, really elaborate and special, but it does give a transfer student a special place to go. Instead of welcome just to the Office of Admissions, some random person's going to help you. No, instead they will come and they will specifically ask for myself or Nicole. So I am very, very excited to finally be moving over there, which is going to be next month. The other thing that we talked about are the waivers and out-of-state waivers. So one of the things that my director said was, well, we need out-of-state students. How many of you guys have had that conversation with your supervisor? And you just look at them and you're like, well, are you going to give me any money or anything? And the answer was no. But a little while later, waivers came up. And I said, okay, well, again, freshmen kind of tend to get everything, right? And I said, well, we need to kind of be a little bit more equal and see what we can do to get these out-of-state students, because they're not going to come to KSU for an English program if there's nothing that's going to be attached to it, no incentive. So we sat down, and I met with our first year, with our associate director, Jordan, who also serves our freshman recruitment team, and Sam. And we were willing, and he was willing to say, okay, well, we will give you guys a portion of these out-of-state waivers if you can find the transfer students. And lo and behold, there was no problem finding these students. It's a very small portion, as you can see, but it's a very good start. All of the waivers that we have given out this past year, all of them have returned, and they have kept roughly about an average of a 3.8. So we are really, really happy. So we're hoping that we can continue with that moving forward. The problem is we have to wait until the last time that the student registers, late registration, until we can potentially go ahead and reward a student the out-of-state waiver for next term. So you can imagine that threshold. You have a student sitting there with a 3.8 waiting to find out if they're going to get it for the next semester. So that is one of those things that we're trying to work on to make it an easier process. We have a campus-wide scheduler called Appointment Plus, and I don't know if any one of you all have it here, but it is a site that allows a student to actually go in and make an appointment with a transfer student. As we know, and I don't know if you guys are from Atlanta or the Atlanta area, but traffic is horrendous in this city. So allowing a transfer student to make an appointment at his or her time is going to be essential to a successful transfer visit. So we started it in 2015. Now the number obviously looks very, very large in comparison to who actually showed up, but keep in mind that 1,031, that's students that didn't show up. They may have been admitted and then they decided not to come for the appointment, but we wanted at least to give you an idea of they go online under Meet Your Staff page and they schedule that appointment. The student can then go in and put his or her notes. What is it that exactly we need to help them with so that we can come prepared when we meet with them? We don't really have a time frame. Typically, the appointment lasts about 20 to 30 minutes. We've had great feedback from the student, and we actually track it because you can run reports every single month. So Sam, again, can walk to me and say, I need the report to show how many people successfully came, how many did you complete, and that will, of course, support any services that we decide to move forward with in the future. So just kind of keep those things in mind as you move forward. So one of the things that I implemented when I came back in 2014 is a document drop-off day. One thing that we saw was we have all these amazing applications, but then they just kind of start trickling off. We get that one random transcript, and then, okay, well, we still have 3 more that are waiting to be submitted. What do we do to get them? We know that they read emails, so we said, okay, well, let's try this random transfer document drop-off day. At my past institution, it didn't work, but I said, well, let's try to bring it up to the Kennesaw campus because we have the big word, free parking. And I should say our office is off campus, so that is a very big help. When we say anything to the Office of Admissions, just park anywhere. You won't get a ticket, you won't get a boot, it's going to be great. All this is, guys, is a day for students to come and drop off a document. It is no different than any other day. But we discovered that if you have an email and you say something to a transfer student in that email, it's about you, it's about finishing something, they will open it and they will come. When I started in 2014, we had 70 students that came, and we had a student from Georgia Southern that had driven 4 hours and was at our door at 8 o'clock dropping off transcripts. I was like, okay, this obviously worked. So we continued with that. The following year, we had about 161 students that came. We had added financial aid. We decided to have Jean's office represented. I didn't know them well enough, so they weren't invited just yet. But the Veterans Office, all those kind of important things. And we had those come later on in the afternoon. We stayed open an hour later. But from 4 to 6, they could walk in, talk to financial aid, drop off documents. We got excited, they got excited, and we turned around and got these kids admitted. So it's just try different things. You know, kids are going to be kids, I guess, and they're going to say, well, we can't make this appointment, but you just keep, you have to keep trying. One of the biggest things that I decided to work with my processing staff at KSU was we're going to promise them an admissions decision within 48 hours. Now, that means that you're going to have to go to your admissions team and be nice, bring some cookies, bring fudge, something. But it worked because the whole point of this was we did document drop-off day in May, a month and a half before the transfer deadline was to happen June 21st. So we're trying to kind of take this all earlier so that these offices can say, well, we got these students a month and a half earlier, we can get them into orientation, we can get them into any type of program that they're interested in. So everyone across the board is really just very, very happy because admissions is trying to do this stuff earlier. So just something that you may want to keep in mind. Saturday transfer visits is also something that we started. Instead of just having one big group visit on a Saturday, break them up. Nicole and I will do a transfer information session, and then again, have an incentive. If they're driving 2 hours to come to your campus, look at their file beforehand and say, hey, Jean, I noticed that you're missing 2 transcripts. Why don't you bring them up with you, and we will open them. We will go ahead and take a copy of your driver's license and lift your lawful presence hold. That way, again, you have kind of done 2 things with 1 visit when the student is here. Go Back, Move Ahead was a state initiative brought on by our Governor Nathan Deal. And basically, has anyone heard of that state initiative? So the state put in about $1 million to bring back students to college. So they were saying, well, if you have been out 20, 25 years, we're trying to get you to come back to school and finish that degree. So we decided to go ahead and host a session, which was really successful the first time. Very simple information session, and we had different departments come. Prior learning assessment, if you all have access to someone who does anything with that at your campus, utilize them. Non-traditional students and adult learners don't want to hear all the great things about housing and all that stuff. They're past it. They want to know, I've been out of school for 25 years, why now? Why do I need to come back to school? So if you tell them, well, listen, if we do a portfolio of your banking experience, we will try to figure out how we can give you credit. I promise you there will be some sort of light in their eyes because you're giving them something that they didn't think they had before coming. Registrar is another big person who plays a key part in everything in admissions. We have a great relationship with them. So again, registrars was able to come in and talk about, well, your credits from back in 1978 from Georgia Tech, guess what? They're still able to be used towards something. It may not be towards a degree, but it can absolutely be used towards some sort of credit later on down the road. And then library visits, it's kind of a random thought. A lot of local libraries, obviously they're free. Utilize them, see if you can reserve a room somewhere and set up a meeting. Bring your laptop and again, bring a scanner. We were able to take documents at that time, lift any lawful presence holds, and again, just have a communication with them. It's much easier to go to them instead of you saying, well, I can meet you at so-and-so and so. Their car breaks down, there's fire on the highway, whatever, and now you've just missed out on meeting a student, whereas here we met with 5 or 6 students. It just makes it for an easier transition for everybody. So just some thoughts for you. Yeah.
All right, so very briefly, and some of you already have heard this before, I wanted to share with you some of the curricular programs that we have initiated. And these started in 2014. Jean and I worked together to develop a Transfer Student Seminar, which some of you have heard about previously, both at this conference and at previous NISTS conferences. But basically, it's a 2-credit-hour transition seminar for transfer students, and it's really focused around the concept of flourishing. So some of you may be familiar with this idea in positive psychology. We were really taken by the idea that a lot of transfer students don't have the confidence, the self-efficacy, or they may have an inkling of it, but they're not really sure that they can do it, that they can be successful at the 4-year institution, and in particular at KSU, because the size of the institution oftentimes is almost disabling to the student. They get on campus and they see the size of the classes, just the sheer number of people and all the parking lots and garages, and it makes them feel very small. And so this seminar really came out of the research that I was doing with transfer students. And when Jean and I were looking at some of the best practices, we thought, how can we really help our students, and how can we offer them something that's different from a first-year seminar? We do a lot of first-year seminars at KSU, and they're awesome, and I've taught them, and my colleagues have taught them, and they're fantastic, but transfer students are different, and so we wanted to focus on this idea of flourishing. We wanted to teach our students, our transfer students, habits. So we use The Power of Habit as a common reader, and if you're not familiar with that book, you might want to check it out. I have no connection to the author. I don't make any royalties on this book, but it's a great book, and I'll tell you what, if you read it, it might also change your personal habits, as it has mine and Jean's. But anyway, it's a great frame from which to offer the students. The students in the class also do a portfolio assignment. They have to interview an academic mentor. They do a student engagement plan. So there are a lot of things that push the students to the various campus resources, but not in the same way that we do with our first-year students. With our first-year students, we bring all the resources in, and we overload them sometimes. But with the transfer students, we're very careful and selective, and we want everything that they're connecting with both on and off campus to be meaningful and important to them. And that's why we start with the engagement plan, because we want them to identify the things that they want to be involved and engaged with, and they can transcend the boundaries of the campus. There are things within the community that students are involved in. There are ways that they can be involved in their homes, in church, and work, and so we just want to help them to make meaning of those and to find those important connections. We also created a transfer student learning community. A lot of our transfer students come in and they need our wellness course. And so we offered that within the learning community, and we offered several sections of the transfer student learning community with the seminar for our TAG students. But this has been a really difficult sell. So we're proud of what we've created, but as some of you all have heard me say, the fact that this is a 2-credit-hour class, and the learning community includes that KSU 2000 seminar, even though the students who have taken it love it, and they are huge proponents of it, it's still additional credit hours for transfer students who may not need additional credit hours. So some of you heard me mention the other day when I was presenting with Tom Greitz from Stockton, who's in the audience, that we're thinking about ways in which we can take some of our existing courses, maybe within the Gen Ed or within the majors, and infuse some of what we've done in the Transfer Student Seminar into those classes. But I need more faculty colleagues who are willing to help me out with that process. And then lastly, we, on the curricular side, have been working on developing a chapter of Tau Sigma, and Jean started that off, and now we have someone in her area who's picked up the charge, and we're working now to identify the students who would qualify, and trying to be very proactive to reach out to them instead of waiting for them to come to us. So we're working with some data that we have through our Student Success Collaborative platform on the campus to identify those students and to be very proactive to reach out to them. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to talk about our TAG initiative.
Alrighty, so again, our office really focuses on trying to be more engaging, not letting our students kind of fall through the cracks. So these are some of the things that we try and do and being proactive on the front end. Like I said, one of the schools that we work with, I was a former student, we have what we call enrollment services specialists within our TAG program that are at our respective campuses that are popular feeder schools. And a lot of the times they'll go out and start that admissions process, they'll start that advising process, talking to them about, okay, this English 1101 will come in as 1101 at Kennesaw State, but being a little bit more specific. If I'm a business major, if I'm an education major, if I'm looking at healthcare programs, what specific classes do I need at these 2-year schools that will come into Kennesaw State University? So those are some of the things that our enrollment services specialists are working with our students on before they actually come in. And they're also going through that process of, now's the time to start your application for Kennesaw State. Now's the time to look at your FAFSA stuff. A lot of training now going on because of some of the new financial aid initiatives, but they're actually walking right there in lockstep with those students from the minute that they're at the 2-year institution to the time that they come into the 4-year institution. From there, that's where we come in as graduation coaches. And again, it's talking about making that transition from, this is what we did at these 2-year institutions. Now, we've got to kind of change up our mindset a little bit because we have to do some things differently here at Kennesaw State University. But they have that base foundation of knowing, I've got this network, I've got this support system coming in that's going to help me along the way. So we do a lot of different workshops, again, like I mentioned, with time management, with financial literacy. We do a lot of intervention for students who are coming in and they're struggling. So now let's talk about the factors that led up to low GPAs, classes that didn't go so well. And even classes, once they come in, they thought that they got credit for whatever reason it didn't happen. Well, let's talk about that. I had a student who had a calculus course that didn't come in, but we were able to circumvent that because he actually did CLEP. So the calculus class was actually an advanced placement class, so we actually got kind of a loophole around that, and it actually worked out for me. He was actually able to get back on track as a result of that. So that's something that we're able to do, just kind of be able to find some things that can loophole some things to allow our students to kind of get back on track or even kind of move ahead. And again, being a little bit more intrusive when it comes to looking at factors that led into low GPAs, things that we're able to do. We just recently were able to add a hold onto our students' accounts. Holds are such a beautiful thing, and they're a gift and a curse. But for this particular instance, it actually works because now they're able to come in and say, hey, I got this hold on my account. I need to get it taken care of before I can register for classes. We all know how that goes, right? But these students are able to come in, and I actually had a student come in this past Tuesday and say, hey, if it wasn't for that hold, I wouldn't have came in here. And as a result of me coming in, I did not know that these were the services that you all provided. I just thought this was something to just participate in without actually having to actually come into anybody's office or participate in any kind of workshops and things like that. But now that I see this service, I'm able to come in, I'm able to do a lot more. So as a result of that, this student, we've got her back on track, we've got a game plan, we meet bi-weekly, and we're able to do a lot of different things as a result of her actually coming in and as a result of this hold on her account. So, you know, holds can be a positive thing. So, and again, beyond that, I don't know how many letters of recommendations I have written for students already. I think I have one in my email that I need to go and work on later this afternoon. But these are things that we're trying to work with our students on beyond graduation. Again, those internship opportunities, grad school, I think I've done 6 alone for one student for grad school applications. And I was able to actually provide the student with a GRE book for them to study for the GRE. And again, letters of recommendations for jobs and things like that. And again, collaborations with other programs, not just orientation and transition programs, but service learning type projects, things of that nature that allow our students to actually feel engaged and feel a part of the Kennesaw State community. Like we talked about so much, just transferring and having that sense of belonging once you make that transition from a 2-year to a 4-year, or those students who went to a 4-year, taking a step back and then coming into that new institution. So those are some of the things that we focus on in our TAG program. So co-curricular programs. I will turn this over to Jean. There we go.
Sorry trying not to trip. There's another board right there.
This way. All right. Well, kind of just bringing everything to fruition. You know, we talked about admissions, we talked about the TAG program, we talked about a lot of the curricular programs. Let's talk a little bit about orientation and transition. And so currently right now at Kennesaw State, we offer over the span of an academic year about 28 orientation sessions. It's a lot. It seems like a lot because 2 years ago, pre-consolidation, we were doing only about 15 orientation sessions. So because of consolidation and because of the increase of majors and the increase of the student population, we have had to work a little bit harder, but then also to be a little bit smarter, right? And so currently right now with Ignition, we offer mostly first-year student orientations. Those for first-year students are day-long programs, your traditional one-days. We were offering day-long programs for transfer students, but because of the fact that the demand for orientation for first-year students was quite larger than for our transfer students, we then kind of moved into doing only half-day sessions for our transfer students, what we like to call our express sessions. So for this year and also for last summer, our transfer students get only an express session. So again, it's kind of like a blessing and a curse because they want to get in and they want to get in and they want to get out, but then we also have those students who want that extra time on campus. And so, so we're really looking forward to what we're going to be seeing this summer, considering that we do have those sessions in place. We also have what we call our pre-orientation or pre-ignition experience. Ignition is our orientation program's name. And so what we like to do is we want to make sure to tell not only our students, but also our family members and parents that attend orientation to visit our website for this pre-orientation experience. It is online and it's customizable. So a student can go in there, say that they're a first year, say that they're a transfer student, and they can customize their experience. And so at least they'll get some information before they come to campus for the actual on-campus experience along with the advisement and the registration. So because of the fact that we were seeing an increase of the need for programming for transfer students, and because of these half-day sessions, one of the programs that I started when I first came to KSU was a transfer student kickoff, and it really was a kickoff before the fall semester. what we did was we included a resource fair, we included campus tours, all those things that transfer students were missing out on during these express sessions. And it was just transfer students. And what we found was not only did we have large attendance, but we were having transfer students who were admitted a week before the program, a day before the program. Because we're a rolling institution. I know a lot of you guys are rolling institutions, right? And so specifically for our transfer students, they were thinking, I can't get into orientation because I've missed, all the dates for orientation. Let's come to this kickoff. And so we saw an uptick of participants because of the fact that a lot of different combinations, whether it was waiting last minute or being admitted at a certain time. This event did not include advisement and registration, but because of the fact that we had all the resources across campus in one place, along with a bus tour and a walking tour, that sense of connection, that sense of belonging was something that we really enjoyed offering at this type of event. Now, the Transfer Student Kickoff is no longer. We hope to bring it back, but because of the fact that we are now offering double the orientation sessions, and we're also doubling the amount of express sessions, not only for our transfer students, but for our first-year students, because of the demand, we now are offering what we call a NOW event, or our New Hour Welcome. We love our acronyms, right? And so, again, very similar to our transfer student kickoff, but this is open to all students. So if you are a student and you attended an express orientation session, you get an email invitation to come back to campus to attend this New Hour Welcome. So again, campus tour, resource fair, we offer breakout sessions. The focus really is on the student involvement and the student engagement piece. And again, first-year students and transfer students are the ones that are invited back who attended the Express. Now, we've offered this program about 3 or 4 times, and the one thing that we have noticed is that more than the majority of students that attend this event are who? Transfer students. It's not our first-year students that attend Express sessions, it's our transfer students. And again, it's because what we find anecdotally is a lot of the students that are coming in, unfortunately miss out on that orientation component, and this is a way for them to get that type of orientation, even though they don't get advisement or registration. Now, we do have advisement folks, registrar folks, financial aid folks represented at this event, but the big pie-in-the-sky type of activities that they would like to get taken care of, we unfortunately do not do at the New Hour Welcome event. And so, I did allude to flight camp. We host Owl Expedition. We're in our 4th year this year of hosting an extended orientation experience for our first-year students. We now want to venture into doing it for transfer students. I think because we've taught in the learning communities, because we have transfer student seminars, we see anecdotally a need, and we want to offer it, and we want to see how it goes. And so this fall, in August, actually the weekend before classes get started, we are going to be offering this type of experience. It's a 2-day experience where transfer students can optionally register for the event. It's not going to cost more than $150, and we're going to be focusing on getting our transfer students who are curious about KSU as well as wanting to be connected to be confident about where they are on campus. And so we will have those traditional camp activities where we'll go off campus, have guest speakers, do a lot of activities, but then we're going to make the activities very formed towards the transfer student experience. And so, including career services, Stephanie, Dr. Foote, she's also going to be our keynote speaker. So we really want to include in that self-authorship piece, as well as making those foundational habits, because we know that transfer students, they've been there, they've done that, but what can they do to start afresh? And so bringing in that piece, we feel like will add a lot of different components. So hopefully by this time next year, we'll be doing a presentation on how successful Flight Camp was. So, and Flight Camp does stand for Finding Leadership in the Transfer Experience. Before I move on to the Transfer Action Team, I do want to say that transition programs, my area overall, has grown. And so because of the fact that we have grown, we've seen an uptick in attendance, and we're offering all these great programs, I was lucky and fortunate enough to hire a coordinator. So that's been exciting as we expand. And so Stephanie alluded to earlier in the presentation about a group of folks that we wanted to put together to help with the transition needs of our transfer students. Now, KSU is a shared governance. There's a lot of layers to campus. You've got the faculty, senate, you got the staff senate, you got this council, and you got this council. Stephanie and I attempted to put together a group and to formalize it, but with consolidation, with the different layers that are added into creating these types of groups, we thought, you know what? We don't want to waste time. We want to get together and we want to pick and choose very carefully and of course strategically who we would like to have in this group to maximize the activities, programs, and the experiences of our transfer students. And so we were at a conference. We were in ISTS actually, I think. We came up with this concept of the Transfer Action Team. And so the way that I like to explain what the TAT is we are a think tank. We're a collaborative group and also a think tank of individuals and professionals that work on a day-to-day basis with transfer students. And we work together to make sure that we're offering programs seamlessly, as well as in a way that makes it very easy, not only for our students, but for us. And so a lot of our campuses, I know for sure, maybe work in silos. Well, this is one of those ways that we're bringing all of the folks together. And we had already been working together in different capacities anyway. So what we do is we meet once a month, and we just met a couple of days ago. And our group consists of orientation and transition programs. Of course, with Stephanie, with our first year in transition studies academic department, undergraduate admissions, we have Chris with TAG. But we also have the Center for Student Leadership that is represented. And so the Center for Student Leadership, just like the name says, focuses on programming, not only academic and co-curricular, but leadership programming as well as civic engagement and service learning. We also have Lindsay from our GATES office. And so GATES stands for Graduation Transfer Articulation Services. And so she, Natasha mentioned Lindsay, she is just the guru of transfer articulation. She is like our go-to person when it comes to credit hours and what transfers over. And so already having folks from not only enrollment services, academic affairs, orientation, all these different areas, admissions, all these different areas coming together to create this awesome think tank to work together and to make things a lot seamless. And so we're really proud of what we've put together. And a couple of new initiatives that we've been talking about are, perhaps an online transfer central. We don't have a brick and mortar transfer center, and and we probably won't for a while, but we want a one-stop shop online where transfer students can just go and just get everything all in one place. Because from what we've heard from our colleagues is that transfer students work backwards, right? They want to know what transfers first, they want to know what they're going to get out of it, and then they'll apply, right? So the Transfer Action Team has really been a wonderful opportunity to share ideas and also just to kind of bounce things off of one another and to see what we can do to move forward when working with our transfer students. And so I will say even for flight camp, we talk a lot about flight camp at our meetings because we have everybody in the room together. And so really looking forward to see what we can do. And it's just a group of people. We don't have to vote. We don't have to go through all these hoops, which is great. So really excited to see what we can do when we can come to that.
So we promised that this session would be interactive, and I realize that we've been talking to you for quite a while now. So I want to give you all an opportunity to talk with a neighbor, to do a quick think, pair, share, and I want to encourage you to talk about something that you might be able to do as we have using resources that already exist on campus. So something that would be sort of new, using what you have, or maybe a new campus partner, somebody that you might reach out to collaborate with that you haven't so far related to transfer student success. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and then we'll wrap it up, and I promise we'll answer any questions that you have. But I want to go ahead and give you a chance to do a think, pair, share. So think about something that you might do, someone you might work with. So anyway, the noise level was awesome. So what did you all talk about? And I have a couple of prizes for those who share first. Yes?
Well, I really love the idea of the new owl, was it new owl walking?
Yeah.
I was a transfer student, and I remember going into, I skipped orientation.
Yep. A lot of us did.
I went last minute.
But I remember thinking, like, probably 2 or 3 weeks in there, thinking, like, there's so much more to the school that I would love to, like, kind of get access to. And I think if there was, like, a new OWL, like, that new welcome a few weeks in, I would have totally gone to it. So I think it's really cool here.
The new OWL welcome is brilliant, and it's all Jean. I mean, she's awesome and amazing, but I think that, you know, participating in it, you know, as somebody who's there meeting the transfer students and other new students, the first years, you know, they're excited, they're energetic. It's on their own time, though. It's not mandatory, it's not required. And that's one of the things that, you know, the panel, the ambassador panel, said yesterday. I mean, they want to feel like they belong, but they don't necessarily want to come to an orientation that may or may not be designed for them. So this is an alternative to that. And I think, I don't want to speak for you, but it's relatively easy, right?
It's very easy. Yes, we invite a lot of people to the party, and everybody brings favors, and it's great. One thing that I do want to add to, is it Peter?
Yes.
That's why I love his name tag. One thing that I do want to add at all of our new OWL welcomes, because of the fact that we invite first years and transfers, we want to make it special for our transfers, and so we put on a social for our transfer students. So for the first new OWL welcome that we did, we have a beautiful gazebo on campus, and we did a transfer student meetup. And so it's a part of the schedule, kind of during but after the main parts of the event, and where we specifically invite our transfer students to come to the gazebo. We had food, we had drinks, we had transfer student representatives. Natasha and Chris were both there, and it was just a great way for them to just come and socialize and to meet other transfer students. Again, simple, easy. We also had Adult and Commuter Student Services office represented there as well. So that also brought in an added component to the social. So very easy.
One thing I want to add, it's not relative to the new OWL welcome, but you know how first year experience would do like a majors fair? We actually put one on later in the semester for transfer students. Because a lot of times, again, we talk about those credits that do and don't transfer, they feel apprehensive about this. And nobody wants to just go into the, you know, there's that stigma of, number one, being a transfer student, having all these credits, and now you're trying to get out. So a lot of them go to this general studies, integrated studies type position. They don't want that. That has a connotation to it that we don't want. So we bring them in to see exactly what type of program they still can get that's relative to the career field that they want to have. So that could be integrated into the new OWL welcome, but it's something that we try and put on later on in the semester once things kind of get rolling.
Anyone else want to share? I have 2 more goodies. Yes.
So I'm an advisor for the College of Engineering at a public state university, and our campus, we don't have a lot of transfer students, and it's not very transfer friendly in that they're not thought of a lot, but our college specifically has a passion for them, like the advisory. So we kind of created our own transfer advising program within our college to create programming specifically for our transfer students and help with the transition. And when we feel like the university is not doing enough, like the orientation kind of not robust enough, we just did a pre-orientation, like the day before orientation.
That's great.
We invited them to come in for like, you know, one-on-one appointments, like if they're already on campus. And it was on a Sunday. We all came in on a Sunday to do it. And we do like a game night the Sunday before school starts to introduce old, previous transfers to new transfers to get them connected, and a lot of like career-related events. We pair with career services because our students are very career-minded and want that connection with industry and stuff. And so we just kind of started doing our own thing because we were getting so frustrated with the campus not being transfer centric. And then, like I was telling her, I was in any meeting or campus-wide meeting, we're just kind of always that squeaky wheel that's like when they're talking about orientation or talking about different programs, always like, what about transfers? It doesn't really affect our transfers. You know, so we're just constantly being a reminder to other people to put them in the conversation.
I think that's awesome, though, and I've heard a couple of different examples of academic departments doing things specifically for their transfers, and I love it. I think that any way we can help support our transfer students and make them feel like they belong, both at the institution, in our majors, in our colleges, in our departments, I think we should do it, and it's awesome that you're the advocate, that your department is the advocate for your students. Yes. She's had her hand up for a while. Oh, Rebecca. Yes, Rebecca.
I'm from the registrar's office at my university, and the funny thing is I transferred to the university I now work at about 20 years ago, and I can tell you right now that the transfer experience is just as bad now as it was then, which was non-existent. So my office, even though we're not the traditional ones that provide these services, we found we're the only ones really talking to transfer students, and we're the only ones being able to provide that information to them. We do. We do a lot of that, and I talk with them a lot, and I work with them a lot, and I try to make sure that they feel welcome, because I know I didn't. Talking with Tony, he gave me some great ideas about how we might be able to leverage some of our regional recruiters and regional agencies to actually work more closely with these transfer students and do some possible pre-articulations, basically, some unofficial ones that really help those students kind of understand where their credits are going. And I'm kind of excited about that opportunity to maybe get involved a lot sooner, and so we can get these students on the right pathways before, because I'm from University of Idaho. We're in Moscow, Idaho, which I bet you probably no one knows where it is. If you know where Washington State is. If you know where Washington State is, we're 8 miles away from that. But we're very rural, and pretty much most of our students, if they come to us, they're being displaced. So there's just so many things that are missing and lacking in our transfer offerings, because it's a lot easier for a student to say go to Boise State, because that's where the major population base is. So I think that for us, it's really, we need to make it easier, and we need to really give these services to these students in order for them to feel comfortable at our institution.
Absolutely. And I recognize that our time is up, but I just want to sort of tie a neat bow on this, and I promise we'll stay and answer any questions that you might have. And we have our business cards in the front. You have already heard while you've been here at the conference about this. I put this in before, I knew that everyone was going to be talking about it, so that was awesome. But this is the transfer playbook, and each and every one of us, I think, can and is a transfer advocate. So these resources that are available, including this playbook, which has clearly articulated the need to make transfer success a priority, to focus on the programmatic pathways that we've talked about, and also to focus on advising. This can be a great resource for us as we're trying to leverage the relationships that we have and that we're developing on campus, so to go to our campus partners. And that's the next step for us. We want to involve more of our academic departments and colleges in the work that we're doing currently. We have some partners who have already begun through this conference to step up, so we have some folks in the College of Science and Math that we'll partner with. But this is a resource that you can go back to and share with colleagues to help them get on the same page, to incorporate this kind of work into their professional practice, so to get them to be transfer advocates along with you. Do y'all have anything else before we?
Just thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you all so much.